This is a follow-up video on the one I made about travel requirements to the U.S. from the Philippines. Marami na ngayong nagpaplanong pumunta sa States dahil naglalax na ang mga requirements. But while there is still a pandemic, I'd like to clarify again who can travel to the U.S. and what are the requirements. If you are in the Philippines and you are a U.S. citizen, a permanent resident of the United States, or an immigrant, you can travel back to the United States whether you are fully vaccinated or unvaccinated. Now, if you are not a U.S. citizen and you are not an immigrant of the United States, you need to be fully vaccinated to travel. The only unvaccinated non-U.S. citizens who can travel to the States are those who are exempt, and you have to produce a documentation to prove that. So what are the medical documents that you need to bring? Number one, proof of vaccination. So bring your vaccination card. Now, if you are exempt, bring your proof of exemption. You need to show that documentation as to why you are exempt from getting the COVID vaccine. And if you got sick from COVID and you have recovered from it, you need to present a documentation of recovery signed by a licensed healthcare provider in the Philippines, indicating that you are free from COVID and you are off isolation within the 90 days before your trip to the US. Now, if you check the COVID-19 and travel information from the U.S. Embassy website in the Philippines, it says that all airline passengers ages 2 years and older, regardless of vaccination status or citizenship, must provide a negative COVID-19 viral test taken within 1 calendar day of travel. So that means if your flight is at 1 p.m. on a Friday, you can get your COVID testing anytime on Thursday. It doesn't have to be taken after 1 p.m. on Thursday because your flight is 1 p.m. Friday. It's not saying that it should be taken within 24 hours. It's saying that you can have your COVID testing 1 day before your flight. And in this U.S. Embassy in the Philippines website, there is no mention at all of needing a travel insurance if you are a tourist visiting the United States. Now, before I expound on that travel insurance, let's talk about COVID testing. This test should be done by a laboratory. There is no home testing kit allowable because we need to present a certificate that we are negative from COVID. And home testing kits don't have a certificate. Meron lang tayong strip na negative tayo pero walang ipoproduce na certificate yon. There is a whole list of COVID-19 testing laboratories in the Philippines, and I have that link provided in the description below. Now, there are two types of COVID testing. There is the RT-PCR test and the antigen test. For practical reasons, you would want to get the antigen test because it is faster. The results, they come out within 30 minutes and it is cheaper. I appreciate all the comments and the questions that were raised in my previous video about this travel requirements. And there is this recurring question about travel insurance. But first, I think the word travel insurance is being used synonymously with health insurance. Because to me, travel insurance is the insurance you get if you want to get refunded fare that you paid for if, say, for some reason you weren't able to make it to your flight. But I think the question is pertaining to a travel health insurance. So going forward, when I say travel insurance, I am referring to a travel health insurance. Now, while travel insurance is not required for tourists visiting the U.S., in my humble opinion, I think it is advisable to get one because of the pandemic. You see, our only line of defense at this moment is our vaccination and our mask. There is no more social distancing. The moment you step into the airport, people are all around you, vaccinated and unvaccinated, while you are falling in line, while you're in the boarding gate, inside the airplane, and during your travel in the United States. The chances of you getting sick is high because there is still COVID-19 and its variants going around. So if you happen to get sick while you are in the States, then having a travel insurance would be able to help you pay your medical expenses. Okay, let me now answer some of the questions I got from the previous video. What if antigen test turns positive before the flight back to the US? Well, unfortunately, you will have to miss the flight because the requirement is a negative COVID test. If you are positive, you need to stay home and get well and be on quarantine. And when you are well, let's go back to the requirement, you need to present a documentation of recovery signed by a licensed healthcare provider. The next question, what if the flight going to the US is on a Monday when testing center is closed on a Sunday? The answer to that is check with your airlines. They will be able to direct you to a partner laboratory that they have wherever you're originating. And you can also check the list of the licensed COVID-19 laboratories in the Philippines. The link I provided below. Look, these airlines will not be operating a flight which will not make their passengers be able to test before their flight. Otherwise, they will have no passengers. So the next two questions are related. So let me read them to you. How about po if international travel pero from Bacolod, Manila, New York? Where to get the COVID test po? Bacolod ba or Manila? Galang, no? The related question is, his flight is Bicol, Manila, Doha, U.S.A. When do I show my negative test? Okay, the answer to that is you need to get your COVID testing at the city of origin unless you have a break in your travel. So meaning, if you're starting from Bacolod going all the way to New York without stopping anywhere, then your COVID testing should be done in Bacolod. If you are starting from Bicol and there is no break in your travel, you go from Bicol, Manila, Doha, and then the United States, then your COVID testing should be done in Bicol. Now, the moment you break your flight, meaning nag-stop over kayo somewhere and you got out of the airport and then you go back and continue your travel, that means you need to get COVID tested again kung saan na-break ang travel nyo. So, for the one traveling in Bacolod, say you went from Bacolod to Manila, and then in Manila you stopped over, got out of the airport, stayed there for a few days to meet some of your friends or family, you need to be COVID tested in Manila before you go on with your flight to New York. I hope that's clear. The next question is One Health Pass or OHP required in LAX? LAX is the airport in Los Angeles. No, One Health Pass is not required in LAX or anywhere in the United States. One Health Pass is only required if you are a traveler going to the Philippines. Quarantine is no longer required for fully vaccinated travelers, but U.S. CDC or Centers for Disease Control recommends that all U.S. travelers do a full 7-day quarantine after their arrival, meaning they're recommending that you stay home or you stay in your hotels for a full 7 days after your arrival. That's just a recommendation, and of course, I don't think any tourists will be following that recommendation since most of them will only have very limited time and would like to make the most of that time, no? Gusto na nila agad maglakwatsa. So, I really recommend that you mask even if there is no more mask mandate in most of the areas in the United States. Please wear your mask. That is your only line of defense. Wala nang social distancing. Puno na mga lugar na pupuntahan nyo, amusement parks, restaurants. Your only line of defense is a mask and your vaccination. The links to the information I shared here can be found in the description below, so you can check it for yourself. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you in my next video. Peace!